Yes, yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I know. Dark chocolate. Yes, 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 my love. Okay, I promise. I promise. Yeah, I love you too. No, you hang up first. No, you. Ciao. Bye-bye. Love you. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye. Bye, bye. See ya. Bye. Okay, well, St. Valentine's Day may be a day that you're desperately looking forward to. It may be a day that actually you'd like to forget. But St. Valentine's Day doesn't have to be for someone who's in love. It can be to celebrate your children, your husband, your wife, your parents, your grandparents, a best friend. I'm going to make something today which actually you can make throughout the whole year, but it's a great excuse to use St. Valentine's Day to make these delicious dark chocolate cupcakes, which if you're wanting to tempt somebody, I can tell you after they've had a bite of these, they'll be yours forever. Cupcakes are very easy, and then the decoration, well, that's up to you, but I'll show you a few little ideas that I have for St. Valentine's Day. So let's start. Okay, so let's go over the ingredients first. I won't tell you the dosages because you will be able to find this recipe on my blog. So we're using a very dark muscovado brown sugar, dark chocolate, butter, and water. These are the first 4 ingredients that will be melted together before we add the dry ingredients. We'll then be using plain flour, self-raising flour, almond meal, cocoa, and why not, some beautiful chocolate chips to make this recipe a bit more chocolatey, and only 2 eggs. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to add, as I said, these 4 ingredients to a saucepan, and we're going to, not on a high heat, a medium heat, we're just going to slowly mix it together and melt it down. You could melt all these ingredients if you wanted to in a microwave oven. I know a lot of people when they're making mud cake, they do melt this portion in the microwave. I think just for habit, because I've always done it in a saucepan, I just prefer to do it in a saucepan. And I prefer to keep an eye on it as the butter's melting, as the chocolate's melting, and making sure it doesn't boil. The important thing is that these ingredients melt together, but that they don't boil. If you boil these and it bubbles up, it can ruin the whole recipe. And I know that from experience. I've used the ingredients before once they've bubbled over and got too hot, and I just went ahead with the recipe. And what happened was the cake did not come out, and it was sort of sinking in the middle, and I ended up having to throw the whole thing away, which is a shame because apart from your time, ingredients are not cheap. Now I'm going to add this mixture into my mixer bowl. So we're going to add the dry ingredients straight away to that. So now I'm going to add the plain flour, the self-raising flour, the cocoa, the almond meal. This recipe, the dry ingredients just need to be mixed in gently. It doesn't need a lot of whipping. We're not making a sponge cake that needs to have a lot of air incorporated into it. I'm going to add the eggs. Now, because this is not cold, I'm actually going to add them while the machine's running. Okay. Okay, so with the machine on, I'm going to add the eggs one at a time. Uno. Okay, I've just added the second egg. I always put the speed up a bit when I add the eggs because I sort of want them to be incorporated quickly. Okay, and the last thing we're going to do is add the chocolate chips. Now, these are optional. These actually weren't in the original recipe, but can we ever have too much chocolate? I think not. Così. E basta. And that's all we need. Don't forget to, with your wooden spoon or a spatula, go around, especially on the bottom, and make sure that there's no flour or cocoa that's stuck to the bottom that hasn't been mixed in. I know this recipe, so I know how much I'm going to fill my cupcakes, but if it's the first time you're using it, I would suggest to fill the cupcake cases from maybe a half. You might want to test it. Throw one in the oven for 20 minutes and see how much it grows. Otherwise, from half to 3/4. But you'll see. I'll show you how much I'm going to put this in. Okay. The quantity of cupcakes that you will make with this recipe varies, obviously depending on the size of the cupcake case and how full you're going to fill them. I made this the other day and I actually made 15 cupcakes, but with what I've done today, I'd be lucky to get maybe one more, so 13. At least you'll get a good dozen, I'll tell you that much. Cupcakes in the oven, they're going to stay there now for half an hour. Set a timer. I usually use my phone for my timer, and maybe put the timer at 25 minutes. So they might need another 5 or 10 minutes and then you can be the judge. Obviously they're going to be ready when a skewer inserted comes out clean, but if you're used to baking and you've baked cupcakes before, you can usually just tell on the top that they're ready and just touch them and it should spring back and you'll know that they're not raw in the middle. I'm going to wash some dishes, and while our cupcakes are cooking, I'm going to get everything ready because I'll be right back and we are going to prepare 2 types of frosting for our cupcakes. Okay, the cupcakes are out of the oven, very happy with those. They've cooled down, which is really important because if you're going to put frosting on them and they're still warm, the frosting will just slide off. Earlier I melted together equal amounts, so 170 grams of dark chocolate and 170 grams of butter, and I've melted that together. Now you can melt that together in a microwave, you can melt it together banyo Maria. I actually did it on very, very low heat in a saucepan. That's really risky because you can burn the chocolate, so be sensible and stir the whole time. Then you want to allow that to cool. That's why I've already done it. So allow that to cool before you then go and start your frosting. Okay, so we're going to start by adding this chocolate and butter mixture and the cream cheese together. Use a spatula because you want to make sure that you are scraping everything from the bowl. Okay, so we're just going to mix the cream cheese and that chocolate and butter mixture. It smells delicious. The recipe for this frosting is for 1 tablespoon of cocoa. It's not sweet cocoa, it's bitter cocoa. I've actually put a bit more in here, so I'm going to add 1 tablespoon and then I'm going to look at it because I want it to be really, really dark chocolatey. So to start with, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon. And you know what? I'm going to add a lot more. Okay, so I'm going to add the icing sugar a couple of scoops at a time. Often when I turn the mixer on at this stage, we'll get a cloud of icing sugar in our face. I'm just going to go slowly and see how we go with this. Oh no, it's okay. So you can see increasing the speed, whipping it up a bit, has lightened the colour. So you can choose to leave it like this, or maybe you'd like to add more cocoa or more melted dark chocolate to make it darker. I'm actually going to leave it like this because I actually really like it. This moment here is the moment that if you've got children in the house, you'll find they're suddenly very present and very willing to help. But if you clean the major part of the frosting off here, this is actually quite nice to give somebody as a little reward, to give a little bit of a pre-wash with their tongue before it goes in the dishwasher. But I just want to have a taste, and this is quality control, to make sure that it's okay. And it's delicious. I will say adding the cream cheese takes away the heaviness of a buttercream. So this is actually a really lovely, lovely chocolate frosting to use. To remember, I hope you don't forget to add your piping tip to the bag before you add the icing. It would not be the first time that I've added it and forgotten to add my piping tip. Okay, for this very simple buttercream, butter, icing sugar, and I've got a little bit of milk. Okay, so I'm going to start softening my butter with my mixer, and then we'll slowly add the icing sugar. At this point, I'm going to add a little bit of milk. It's something I always have on hand, depending on what the consistency of my buttercream is. I'm going to feel it because I want to feel how thick it is, because especially as I'm going to be using this for piping. So this is my light pink. There's still a bit of white in there, but I can mix that up properly with a spoon later on. So that's going to be my pale pink. Okay, so now we are going to add a bit more because we want a really deep, rich colour. And why not? Let's just actually tip some in. And here they are finished. As you can see, easy peasy, not difficult, absolutely delicious. And whoever you give these to, the person that you love will be so appreciative, especially because they're handmade, which makes them even more special. I wish you a happy Valentine's Day with whoever you're spending it with. Hopefully you're spending it with people you love and who love you back. Yes, yes. Yeah, no, I've nearly finished. I finished, yeah. Okay. Yes, my love. Yes, 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 my love. Yeah. Can I put the pasta on? Are you going to be home soon? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love you too.